Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling a really impressive piece of kit. It's called the WolfPack 8K 30Hz 5x8 video wall controller. Sounds pretty intense, right? Like something from a sci-fi movie command center. So our job today is basically to cut through all that jargon. We've got the manufacturer's product description, the features list, the tech specs, all the official info. And we're going to figure out what this thing really does, how it's used, why it matters, especially now with visuals being so important everywhere, what makes it tick, and who actually needs something like this. We want to get you up to speed fast.
Exactly. And it's a good place to start because, well, you see these massive, stunning displays everywhere now, don't you? Airports, big company lobbies, control rooms, there's always something complex driving them behind the scenes. And this WolfPack controller, it's basically the brain. It sits right at the heart of these advanced systems. It takes all this complex visual information, sometimes from multiple places, and weaves it together, makes it look seamless across, well, potentially dozens of screens. It's a pretty clever engineering, really.
Okay, right. So let's break down that name then. 8K 30Hz 5x8 video wall controller. That's a mouthful. Let's start with the basics. What fundamentally is a video wall controller for someone, new to this kind of AV tech?
Okay, yeah. Fundamentally, it's a specialized processor. Think of it like the central command for a multi-screen setup. Its main job is taking video inputs. Could be from, say, a camera feed, a computer, a Blu-ray player, whatever, and it intelligently spreads that content across an array of screens, a video wall. It makes them all work together as one giant, coherent display.
Ah, I see. So without it, you just have a bunch of separate TVs.
Pretty much, yeah. Just individual screens. The controller is what ties them all together. It lets you show one massive image, or maybe several different images at the same time, all managed cleanly. It makes the complex look simple.
Right, the conductor for the visual orchestra, like you said. Okay, so the 8K part, we're all sort of getting used to 4K being the standard, right? And what kind of jump are we talking about with 8K? Especially on a huge wall.
It's a significant leap. Think about it. 8K isn't just about having more pixels, although it has a ton more, 4 times as many as 4K, actually. It's really about detail and clarity at scale. Imagine a huge display in, say, a control room. If it's pixelated, you might miss crucial information. Or in a high-end shop, a blurry image just kills the luxury feel. 8K, driven by a controller like this, means even if you walk right up to the screen, the image stays sharp. Every line, every texture is crisp. It helps the screen itself kind of disappear, so you just see the content. Unbelievable clarity.
Wow, okay. So even standing close to a massive wall, you wouldn't see the pixels.
Yeah.
That's impressive. And the 5x8 part, that refers to the grid of screens.
Exactly. 5 screens high by 8 screens wide, potentially.
So 40 screens in total.
Potentially, yes. 40 displays, all working together, driven by this one box.
That sounds immense. Pushing the boundaries, really. But, it makes you wonder, is there a point where that becomes overkill? Like for those places the source mentioned, conference halls, sports bars, do they really need an 8K 5x8 setup? Or would a simpler 4K multi-screen thing do the job? What are the trade-offs?
That's a really important question, the overkill factor. And yeah, for simple info displays, maybe a basic 4K setup is fine, but an 8K 5x8 wall, that's not just about showing information. It's about making an impact. It's about precision. Think about a high-level command center monitoring critical infrastructure, absolute clarity across multiple data feeds, non-negotiable.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
Or a flagship store trying to create a truly immersive premium experience, that wow factor from perfect 8K visuals that directly impacts how people feel about the brand. Cheaper options just can't replicate that. The trade-off is, yes, usually higher cost and maybe more complex installation, but the benefit, a visual experience that really stands out.
Makes sense.
And, of course, to drive a display that big and detailed, the inputs have to be up to scratch. The source says this one has 3 HDMI 2.0 inputs and 2 DisplayPort 1.4 inputs.
Okay.
These are serious high bandwidth connections. They can handle massive resolutions coming in. We're talking 7680 by 4320 pixels. That's full 8K at 30 frames per second over DisplayPort 1.4, or a slightly wider format, 7680 by 2160, also at 30 Hz over HDMI 2.0. These inputs make sure your original 8K source material gets into the controller without losing any of that crucial detail.
Okay, so the why for 8K makes sense for that critical detail, that impact. You mentioned conference halls, meeting rooms, sports bars earlier.
Yeah.
What kind of specific things can this controller do in those places that a simpler setup couldn't? beyond just looking impressive?
Well, take a conference hall. It's not just about putting slides up anymore. Imagine a big company's results presentation. You could show incredibly detailed financial charts, maybe complex product designs, blown up across the entire wall. Everyone in a large audience can see every single detail perfectly. That's a different level of communication. In a meeting room, think high-end video conferencing. Remote team members could appear life-sized, crystal clear across several screens. It makes it feel much more like they're actually in the room with you. Better collaboration.
Right, enhances the connection.
And a sports bar. Yeah, you could show the main game huge, but maybe also have 3 other games going on smaller sections, plus live stats, maybe Twitter feeds, all running simultaneously, all sharp 8K. It creates this really dynamic, engaging hub that keeps people watching. This controller gives you the flexibility and the fidelity to build those kinds of experiences.
Okay, so it's not just about being big and high res.
Yeah.
What are the sort of clever features, the things that make it more than just a fancy signal splitter? What lets it create those really dynamic, eye-catching displays you mentioned?
Yeah, there's quite a bit going on under the hood. First, the outputs. It has 8 DVI outputs to drive the screens, but crucially, it also has 8 DVI loop outs.
Loop outs, what's the significance of that?
It's about flexibility, really. A loop out lets you pass the video signal through the controller to another device without using up one of your main outputs for the video wall itself. So you could say, daisy chain another processor, or maybe send a feed to a monitor in a control booth for confidence checking. Keeps your main outputs free for the wall. Very handy in complex setups.
Ah, okay. Useful.
And it also mentions support for 4 LED sending card slots. That just means it's not limited to LCD or standard monitors. It can directly drive those big LED panels you see in stadiums or large venues. So versatile in terms of display tech.
And how do you actually control this thing? If you've got 40 screens showing complex stuff.
Good question. They give you options. For quick changes right at the unit, there are buttons on the front panel. Simple enough. But for real control, there's a WWED GUI. That's a graphical interface you access through a web browser.
So you can control it from a laptop or tablet.
Exactly. It makes it much more intuitive, especially for complex layouts. Remote control, basically. And for the pros, the integrators, it supports RS-232 commands. That's the traditional, reliable serial control method for AV systems. And also TCP/IP and UDP network commands. That means you can integrate it into a building's network, manage it remotely over the internet, even automate it with control systems.
Lots of options there.
Yeah, and one nice little touch, there's a 4-inch LCD screen right on the front of the controller itself. It shows you things like which input is active, what settings are applied, ED'd information.
ED'd, what's that?
Extended display identification data. It's basically how the displays tell the source device, hey, I can handle these resolutions and timings. The controller manages that communication. So that little screen lets you see vital info at a glance without needing a separate monitor or logging in. Quite practical.
That dual approach buttons web network sounds really flexible. Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting for managing complex visuals. The source mentions things like 4 layouts, picture-in-picture, PIP, picture-outside picture, PAW-P, cross-screen, and seamless switching. Tell us about those. How do they help create dynamic displays with multiple sources? And why is seamless switching so important?
Right, this is where the creative power comes in. First off, seamless switching. Absolutely vital in any professional setting. It means when you switch between, say, input 1 and input 2, you don't get a black screen or a weird glitch. It's a smooth, clean transition. Looks much more polished.
Okay, crucial for live events or presentations.
Definitely. Then the layout features give you amazing flexibility. PIP, picture-in-picture, you probably know that one. Put a smaller video window on top of a main background image.
Like a presenter next to their slides.
Exactly. Pop picture outside picture is often used for side-by-side displays or maybe 2 or more distinct video zones on the wall. Good for comparing things or showing multiple camera angles. Cross-screen lets you stretch a single image across multiple physical screens even if they're not right next to each other, or create artistic layouts that break the standard grid format. And having support for 4 saved layouts means you can pre-configure these complex arrangements and switch between them instantly. Huge time saver.
Makes sense.
Then there are other neat tricks too. Video freeze lets you pause a live feed on screen. Good for highlighting something specific. Output 1-button black contents, basically a panic button to instantly black out the entire wall. Useful for transitions or drawing attention elsewhere. It even has built-in test patterns. That's super helpful for integrators during setup and calibration to make sure all the screens look right.
Good for troubleshooting.
Yeah. And finally, audio. It has 3.5mm audio de-embedding. That means it can strip the audio signal out from the incoming HDMI or DisplayPort video and send it to a separate audio system via a standard headphone jack. Gives you control over sound independently from the video.
All sounds very comprehensive. But the feature that really caught my eye was the 10 scenes save and load. Saving and recalling 10 different entire setups sounds like a massive game changer, especially in those dynamic places like sports bars or live events. How does that work in practice?
Oh, it's incredibly useful. It directly tackles that need for speed and consistency when things change quickly. Think about that sports bar again. Game day. Multiple games, ads, maybe menu boards. Instead of someone frantically fiddling with inputs and layouts every time they need to switch, which takes time and looks clumsy, they just hit a button. Scene 1 might be the main game full screen. Scene 2 could be 2 games side by side. Scene 3 might be the halftime ad loop that runs across all screens.
Oh, okay. Pre-programmed looks.
Exactly. Pre-configured scenes, same for a conference. You could have scene 1 for the opening keynote speaker, maybe their video feed and slides. Scene 2 for a panel discussion, multiple camera feeds. Scene 3 for Q&A, maybe audience shots and branding. It saves a ton of time, reduces the risk of errors during live changes, and ensures everything looks perfectly professional and consistent every single time. It makes complex transitions look easy.
Automation for the win. Okay, let's shift gears slightly. Let's get into the nitty-gritty specs. For the people who really need to know the technical details, the integrators, the IT folks listening, what are the key specs and control details? How does it physically connect and operate?
Right, the technical nuts and bolts. Control-wise, we mentioned the options. You've got that RS-232 port. It's a standard DB9 connector, runs at 115200 baud by default, solid for direct serial control systems. Then the network port, RJ45 Ethernet. It uses specific ports for control, 62203 for TCP, 62222 for UDP, essential for network integration and remote management. And there's also a USB-A port, but that's specifically listed for firmware upgrades, keeping the system up to date.
Okay, standard stuff for Pro AV. What about power, size, weight, environmentals?
Power is standard universal AC input, 100 to 240 volts, 50-60 hertz. Max consumption is listed as 55 watts.
Pretty efficient for what it does.
Surprisingly so, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Size-wise, it's 19 inches wide, about 14 inches deep, and 3.46 inches high. That's basically a standard 2U rack height, so it fits nicely into equipment racks. Weight is listed as max 6.61 pounds, so reasonably light. Environmentally, it's rated for a working temperature from 32 degrees AF up to 133 degrees AF, which is 0 degrees C to 56 degrees air. Pretty standard range for indoor equipment. Now, the source does list a working humidity range of negative 68 degrees AF to 154.5 degrees air.
Wait, Fahrenheit for humidity, that seems odd.
It does, doesn't it? That looks much more like a temperature range, maybe even the storage temperature range, or possibly a typo in the source spec sheet.
Huh.
Humidity is normally given as a percentage, like 10% to 90% non-condensing.
Right.
So yeah, that specific humidity number seems suspect. If humidity is a critical factor for an install, you definitely want to double-check that directly with the manufacturer.
Good catch. Always read the fine print or question it. Okay, the source also mentions a 3-year warranty and that it's TAA compliant. And the company, HDTV Supply Inc., they've been around for 24 years, certified way back in 2003, well rated on Google Shopping. For a piece of gear like this, costing $1,750 today, how important are those kinds of assurances? The warranty, the company background?
Oh, they're hugely important. Maybe just as important as the specs sometimes. When you're buying specialized gear like this, it's often for a critical application. You need reliability. A 3-year warranty shows the company stands behind its product's build quality. TAA compliance is crucial for selling to U.S. government agencies or related contractors. It basically verifies where it's made or sourced from. And knowing the supplier, HDTV Supply has been established for over 2 decades with certifications and good reviews. That builds a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
You know they're likely to be around for support. They understand the market. They're not some fly-by-night operation. We also see they've trademarked WolfPack and WolfPad, suggesting they're invested in this product line. And they offer related versions, like the 5x6 or 5x4 controllers. It shows a whole ecosystem, not just a one-off product. It's all part of the reassurance you look for with a significant investment like this.
Right, it's about the whole package, not just the box.
Yeah.
So wrapping this up then, what's the big takeaway for you, our listener, trying to understand this corner of the video world? We've gone deep on this WolfPack 8K 5x8 controller, the high-res power, the tricky control features, the real-world uses. We've tried to cut through that jargon.
I think the main takeaway is that this device is much more than just hardware. It's really a powerful, smart, and surprisingly flexible tool. It's designed specifically to handle really complex, super high definition video scenarios smoothly and reliably. It's what makes those giant, seamless multi-screen displays possible, whether it's for critical data, corporate messaging, or just jaw-dropping entertainment. It unlocks the potential of large-scale video.
Making the incredibly difficult look effortless. Okay, so that leaves us with a final thought for you to ponder. Given the kind of power and fine-grained control we've seen in a device like this, orchestrating 8K across potentially dozens of screens, what new kinds of experiences could this enable as the tech becomes maybe more accessible? Think about public art installations, maybe interactive museum exhibits, or even crazy home entertainment setups. How might this level of visual control change how we see and interact with information and art in the future? Something to think about. Thanks for joining us on this deep